Here we are again on Speed Street. Welcome back. We have cars on track as we speak at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Another full show for you this week. Excited about it. We have internet defenseman, specialist, hacker, rapper, Bryce Case Jr. Really fascinating conversation. As I said before we hopped on here to Connor and Ben, felt like a perfect off-season, IndyCar off-season conversation here for Speed Street. We talked a little bit about the future of technology and fandom in IndyCar, but also a whole lot about what Bryce does, and really picked his brain about the ins and outs of the internet and security and all of those sorts of things. So I want to stick around for that. Of course, going to hit on the recap of Roval. We got a weekend podium for sure, so I want to stick around. Thank you for being here. I'm Joey Molinaro. It's always presented by Dirty Mo Media. Of course, Connor Daly, Ben Walton. Connor, let's start off, man. You had a weekend in Charlotte. I was trying to keep track of how everything was going. I had a 5 a.m. flight from Houston to Dallas to Indianapolis, hopped off the plane and went right into getting a tux on to be in one of my best friend's wedding at Bottleworks.
Love it.
So needless to say, it was a little tough. I was a little occupied, but definitely want to start with you, man. How you feeling? How was Charlotte?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great time. We got to compete in the Xfinity race with Emerald Gase Motorsports. Obviously, that team is a small operation. We did not have the the A motor program where the cars are not necessarily the latest and greatest, but you know what? Great team. Enjoyed working with Joey Gase. He's actually it's wild. He's younger than me, and he owns that team, which is I thought astounding. I'm 31. He's 30. But that was just a big learning experience for me. To get right into it, we lost a transmission line in practice, so we were losing a bunch of transmission fluid. If you saw the practice session, it looked like our engine had blown up. We were smoking so badly. And so that was a shame because I only got one run to practice. And then obviously, making the race for that team is super important. They kind of fight every weekend to be right on that, right on that limit of making the race, in that level of equipment. And we only got one lap really in qualifying because that's all the tires last. And when we got out there to qualify, it's kind of similar to IndyCar in the fact that there are two groups for qualifying, but your lap times count altogether, right? So like in IndyCar, it doesn't matter what times are the first group compared to the second group. If you're seventh in the second group, or the first group, and the entire second group goes faster, you don't move down the list. You're still starting 13th, right? That's kind of how it is. Whereas NASCAR, and this is a bit of an interesting one, it kind of helped me a little bit, but your speed in Group 1 slots you in overall. So like if you're 20, or if you're 17th or whatever in your group, you might still end up 17th, or if that next group goes faster, you could end up 30th. You know what I mean? So interesting there, but we had lost a lot of the transmission fluid, so we couldn't really do a ton of laps in qualifying anyway. And the lap that we got, Boris said, really just kind of blocked us for two corners, but not his fault. Something was breaking on his car. I wish that he would have gotten a little bit more out of the way because it ruined our lap, which was very disappointing for me. But we still made it on speed. We were still fast enough to make it. Which was good. We were able to pick up 2 seconds from practice to qualifying, which I was happy about. And then, we got to make the race. Honestly, after the experience that I told everyone, at the Indy road course, not making the race in the rain, but dry track with wet tires, that was a traumatic experience, honestly, for me. And so to make the race, I was disappointed we couldn't do more laps in qualifying, and more laps that the tires only last one lap. So that was unless you nail the lap on that first lap, you're kind of screwed. And so I was a little bit disappointed after the session because I thought there was way more time available had we not got blocked on our qualifying lap. And I walked right back to the truck and I was just thinking, you know what? That's probably a tough one. I don't know if we really made it. But I had literally packed up all my stuff. I took off my suit, packed it all in my bag. I looked at flights to go home earlier because I was like, nope, I'm sure I didn't do a good enough job. But I did a good enough job, and we made the race. So I appreciate Joey Gase and the boys, getting us ready for that. I was teammates with Alex Gwinnett, who's a NASCAR Canadian Series driver. Was able to out-qualify my teammate, which is, again, that's kind of what you look to do. but we both made the race. So that's all that mattered. And yeah, it was definitely an interesting one. Ben was there. Thankfully, we had Ben there at a Speed Street support system. Okay. Ben was there. So Ben was taking some great pictures and videos for me. I'd even text him. I was like, Ben, I think I don't know if I'm going to make it. Ben, I didn't want to see you. I didn't want to know anything. But Ben was like, hey, are you guys all right? I was like, I don't know. And I like to set my expectations low and just immediately assume, you know what, probably not going to make it. Let's go home. And then be surprised. Like, hey, we made it. You're good. And that's what happened.
Yeah. It's a fair way to go about things, I think.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No. I mean, just to kind of, we have a great long interview coming up. So I want to, don't want to spend too much time on letting people know, about this NASCAR Xfinity race. But it was a race that, we had to start at the back anyway. We were already kind of qualified at the back anyway, but we had to start officially in the back because we had to, do work, unapproved adjustments to refill the car with transmission fluid, all that stuff. But it was an enjoyable first stint. Like first stage of the race, kind of made up some spots, got ahead of a few folks. Was just learning about the tire degradation, how we're going to do that. Second stage, again, kind of slowly, we lost a couple spots in the pits there under the first stage caution, but kind of made a few spots back, just working away. The car we had made an adjustment on the car in the first pit stop, and it was definitely the wrong way. So we didn't make the, we found where we don't want to run the car. So we were going to go back at the second stage caution, but with only a couple laps to go in that second stage, the left rear tire exploded. No idea how that happens. Obviously, we see, if you watch NASCAR consistently, you see tires, blowing up all the time. We didn't have a rub. It didn't look like. We might have hit some debris. I'm not really sure. There was a lot of stuff scattered on that track throughout the race. Parts are falling off cars. Cars are smoking at the back. I've never seen so much chaos. But, we lost the left rear. And thankfully, I was able to somewhat keep it out of the wall. But when we hit the wall, all radio communication went dark. I don't know how that happens. I've had a lot of weird stuff happen in my life. I've never lost radio in the race ever before. So add that to the list of things that have happened in my life now. I don't know how that works. But it sadly meant that we had to, come around real slow because I can't see how badly the car is damaged, right? I don't know which tire it was at the time either. I could kind of feel like it was the left side, but was able to drive all the way back around the pits. Figured out that we had no radio communication, which that makes it almost impossible as a driver because I can only know so much, right? We were in a position to get the lucky dog to get our lap back, to get on the lead lap. I had no idea. And it's not like there's a board. And I actually suggest this to NASCAR. I think this would be great. But if you can have a light board somewhere, if there is some sort of radio communication issue, put the number of the car that's getting the lucky dog every time on, just under yellow. I feel like that might be helpful. Who knows? But I didn't know that I could take that. So we kind of were screwed from then on. But, we made it all the way to the end. We got all the laps in. It's, again, no result that anyone is proud of. It is what it is. But we were, we had some good speed. We were probably able to finish up, towards the mid-20s. I was hoping for maybe a top 20 if we got lucky on that last restart. But again, a NASCAR race that everyone I go into says it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be crazy. There's going to be a ton of crashes. Really not a lot. There was really not a lot of that. There was not a high level of drama. Usually that race, you'd expect several different attempts at the green, white, checkered finish. There was none, which I find that wild. So, it is what it is. Big learning experience for me. We're happy to be, in the fight for that, the back tier field there. And yeah, that, it's a race that finally we were able to get under our belt. My first Xfinity race since 2018. And I enjoyed being a part of it. So learned a lot to take advantage of hopefully another opportunity in the future.
Where's that stack up for your Charlotte experiences for you?
Oh, well, the last time I did the Roval, it was in the Cup Series and we blew 2 tires. So this time we only blew 1. But the tires that we blew in the Charlotte Roval, that was my fault. I was locking up the left front because we were quite a ways off on the brake bias where that needed to be. But this experience was just, hey, I did everything I could do. Had some good racing moments with some guys out there, which I thought was a good time. Good couple battles with Brett Moffitt and enjoyed seeing what John Hunter Nemechek was doing at the beginning of the race because he had to start at the back too. So yeah, I enjoyed being a part of it. But again, I would like to have a chance to be competitive someday there. That would be nice. But you know what? At this point in my career, there was a risk in it being a negative, but it turned out to be a positive. I think getting the experience, getting out there, being ahead of some cars, being ahead of my teammate, working on having good speed, I think that was, a positive for sure overall. But who knows what'll happen next? So I enjoyed it.
Good. Hey, that's all you can do. That's all you can do right there is enjoyment, walk away, feel like you learned something, and you did that. So there you go. Speaking of people who are learning something, today, we're recording on Wednesday as we speak. So from today, the 11th through Friday, the 13th, we have rookies, new incomers. We got big names over at IMS, putting laps down, doing a little testing for the big one, the oval, the Indy 500. Connor, who do we got out there?
Well, so today, and I guess I'd like someone to explain this to me, but today only the 8 car of Linus Lundqvist is running, Tom Blomqvist, and then I believe Marcus Armstrong as well.
Yep.
So those 3 are running. Obviously, Kyle Larson has to do his ROP tomorrow. I'm not entirely sure why they didn't run him today, but it has to do with probably him never ever driving an IndyCar on an oval before. I think they're going to put that on a separate day. Also, Kiffin Simpson is not there. He is another person who has to do rookie orientation, but I believe that in some ways, I think they have to run him at Texas or something first, before they get to Indy. That's usually that's what Linus did. That's what Tom did. Marcus Armstrong as well. All those guys have already run a day at Texas as a bit of a oval introduction before they get to Indy. So Kyle Larson will be running tomorrow, Thursday, depending on what day you're listening to this. And that's definitely a full introductory day for him because he's never driven an IndyCar on an oval. But looks like so far everyone's kind of passing through their situation. It looks like the Ganassi number 8 car, I saw a tweet that he might have lost an engine already. I saw the car on the tow truck. So that's not ideal for his testing program. And we never really see that. Engines never really let go that much in the IndyCar series. But it looks like his day might be cut short. But other than that, it looks like everyone's kind of passing through with no issues. Everyone is going to be tuned in for Kyle Larson tomorrow. Everyone. We're all going to be wondering how that's going to go. And guess what it's going to go like? It's going to go fine because Kyle Larson knows exactly what he's doing. But these days are important. I mean, any extra day you can get at Indy is super, super special. And, you got a lot of good drivers out there, great teams as well. No one is, in a bad situation. You've got Dario Franchitti out there helping out the Ganassi guys. You've got Elio out there helping Tom Blomqvist because Elio's obviously, he's an owner now. Tom Blomqvist's teammate at Indy next year. So yeah, it's exciting to see cars at the track, at IMS. It's thankfully we get some buzz out of it, right? IndyCar is back. Our schedule's been done for a while. Everyone in the NASCAR world over the weekend's like, oh, is your season over? I'm like, yeah, we've been over for like a month. So everyone's kind of surprised that we're kind of all done, but nice to see some internet activity and some good, action for the IndyCar series. Experience the thrill of the racetrack like you're in the driver's seat with DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet on your favorite racers and feel the rush of every overtake, pit stop, and victory like never before. Right now, new customers can turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. Bet 5 on anything to score big, no matter what goes down on the track.
Make sure to stay tuned into Dirty Mo Dough this week to hear the NASCAR Cup Series Round of 8 playoff matchups starting at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
The racing action doesn't stop till the checkered flag drops. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and join with code SPEEDSTREET. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. That's code SPEEDSTREET only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Yeah, I'm bummed that I can't be out there on the mountains at Turn 2. Haven't seen any visuals yet. I'm wondering what that's like. I've had a few people texting me, ask if I was going out there. I can't because I'm heading to Louisville for my show tonight, and then I'll be in Knoxville for Fox Thursday, Friday. So unfortunately, can't see cars go round at IMS this time.
I'm not going out there either. Don't worry.
Yeah, right. Yeah. This has popped up. Nathan Brown reports that Linus Lundqvist completed Indy 500 ROP, still with more than 4 hours of running time today to spare. This is at about noon on Wednesday. He's run 53 laps this far with his fastest at 2:19.504. So just a little sample size there for everybody of what some of the young folks and the newcomers are putting down out there.
And obviously this week as well, there's going to be hybrid testing, right? Like that's going to be a big point of the week. I was playing Apex Legends last night with Alex Pillow. We were out there getting dubs on the internet. We did not stream it though last night. We might stream it tonight, Wednesday, on my Twitch channel. But Alex Pillow doing some testing this week with the hybrid unit. That's going to be interesting. Both Chevy and Honda teams are running, some hybrid testing at Indy. The car is going to be heavier with the hybrid system. I'm not entirely sure if they've sorted out how that's all going to work yet either. How are we going to be able to use that hybrid system on, a high speed oval like Indy? So again, important week for the IndyCar series, just for the testing for the future of the series. So I'm very curious to see what the report on that will be. All positive, I'm sure. All positive.
Yep, absolutely.
One thing, again, that I actually really wanted to get into, and I hadn't put this in the notes at all, but I don't know if you saw over the weekend, the Formula One drivers at the race in Qatar, lots of drivers complaining about the heat in the car and drivers literally passing out after the race. And a lot of people asked us about this, and this is something I really wanted to talk about because
lay it on us.
I watched the race, and we all know that those cars have power steering, right? Any Formula One driver, Marcus Ericsson, Roman Grosjean, obviously, for example, come over to IndyCar, they got to build muscle. It's hard to drive our cars. It's way harder to drive our cars than any other car on the planet. And Jimmy Johnson and Joseph Newgarden kind of got involved in this conversation as well. We were kind of going over cockpit heat, right? Cockpit temperatures. NASCAR, I would say, obviously, Cup cars right now, hottest cars inside, right? It is hotter than the IndyCar. I would say the IndyCar is right below that when it comes to heat, but physically much harder to drive because we don't have power steering. There's a lot more going on for us. There's a lot more muscle usage. Now, again, as someone who just raced an Xfinity car, if you look at my heart rate is high. It's still a difficult, activity to do. But again, much less physical strain on my arms, on my core, because the G loads are smaller. You're going a little bit slower. But to give Formula One drivers a little bit of credit, they are obviously all extreme athletes as well. The G loads and the speeds that they are doing is the highest in the world when it comes to road course performances. But what I think you have to remember is, have you seen how tiny all these drivers are? They train to be as light as possible because you have to be so light in those cars. You can't train to build muscle to be that extreme athlete under heat. They have open air to them. Like, you get air. And, you saw Lando Norris lifting his visor during the race to get more air to him. Like, in my opinion, I don't think they have anything to complain about. But I do not want to discredit them because they all train to be certain athletes for their craft, right? They probably aren't allowed to be hydrating aggressively. And, as much as we do, we have crazy hydration plans before the race, all this crazy stuff to help us survive. I actually physically, as someone who has been part of an F1 team before in a reserve driver sense, knowing what those drivers had to go through to stay at the weight limit and all this stuff, there's no way you could take in that much fluid because you'd be too heavy for the engineers. So I think that it's again, all these people were pointing out, like, oh, wow, like drivers almost passing out. Like, shoot, I remember when there was 8 of us in the infield care center at Iowa after race 1, just getting an IV to try to be ready for race 2. You know what I mean? Like, and it seems like us in the IndyCar series, everyone gets shamed if you think that it's too hot, and no one does anything about the heat in the car. Like, there's these air vents don't do anything. It's just, it is what it is now. And, anyone, if you complain about it at all, you just get shunned, or you're like, oh, well, you're just a loser. Well, you had now 8, 10, 14 F1 drivers passing out. Oh, we should have stopped the race. Like, oh my gosh. It was like, guess who was wanting to stop the race in Nashville when they went red this year? Drivers parking under trees just for shade. You know what I mean? Right. Like, this is, it's a fascinating thing to see. It's not because Formula One drivers are not like tuned like we are. It's just a different level of training. They're training for, to be as light as possible, as strong as possible, but that means they have zero body fat to burn during this event. And once they sweat everything out, well, they sweat everything out way easier than it seems like we do. Now, again, I am not a Formula One driver. I don't know, but I have driven a lot of different cars. I've driven a Formula One car. I kind of understand a little bit about it. They are all hard in their own areas. Formula One is extremely difficult. It has the physical capability that car has over any car in the world. Indycar, heavier to drive, only going off of references from drivers who have driven Formula One cars before, raced them before, they say it's harder. Jimmy Johnson, it's quite a challenge to drive these cars physically. Now, I do believe that NASCAR Cup cars for sure are the hottest. That's no doubt about that. But people just have to understand that we do this job not because it is easy. You're not going, like, I saw people like, oh, well, like, these guys shouldn't be passing out after the race. Are you kidding me? These guys have dreamt all their life about racing in Formula One. They are going to do anything that it takes to pilot these vehicles. And we are not going to stop unless you're like truly dying. Like I felt like I've been dying in an IndyCar race before, but was I going to stop? Absolutely not. I'd rather end up in the wall. Honestly, that's because you try to prove every day that this is what you're willing to do to be a part of this. This sport used to be way more dangerous than it is now. But this is why we do it. It has to be a hard sport. It has to be, because that's just what it is. It's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way, because it's not for any, Manny, Mo, and Jack on the road. Like it's for those people who have trained all their lives, who have put their entire existence into being a part of this. And you know what? Is it hard sometimes? Yep, it's hard. But guess what? All those F1 drivers are going to show up next weekend ready to rip again, and they're going to take it on because that's just what athletes do. So I had to get to that and kind of compare it, because I saw a lot of Twitter conversation about it, and it was wild to see that many F1 drivers affected by that. But I know how much the heat can do to your body. It is an absolute destroyer of your body under those conditions, and trying to compete at the highest level of any motor racing is really, really challenging.
Yeah, too cutthroat of a sport in any of these pro series, to where, like you said, people are going to go out there no matter what, even if it is too hot, even if it is dangerous, which it is.
Yeah,
because
but they also haven't really taken it into, like, driver comfort is not a thing. Like, right, those seats that those guys are sitting in, we're sitting in foam seats, like, adjusted to our body. Those F1 drivers are pretty much sitting on carbon. Like, they're sitting on, like, Alonso said his back got burned because the seat was so hot. Well, it's like, well, that doesn't happen if you actually have like a two-part foam seat that we use for, like, for safety and for all these reasons. F1 cars are not built for comfort. They're built for speed.
Yeah. But like you said, I mean, the second that somebody says, actually, this is way too hot and it is kind of bothering me, I think I'm going to sit up, then somebody's ready to just freaking chop their leg off to be able to get in the car and take that seat right away.
Exactly. Yeah, are you kidding me? Like, I am 1,000% in on sacrificing pieces of my body to get into a Formula One car and be ready to go racing. You know what I mean? Like, and an IndyCar too. Like, I've done a lot of crazy stuff in my life, but every day I would be like, am I cutting off a pinky finger maybe to race? I would do it. I would consider doing it.
There you go. Yep, that's all you need to know right there. All right, I want to get into weekend podium.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump into the podium before we get to our interview here. Shall I go first?
Let's start us off.
All right, so P3 for me, diabetics are back. Right, diabetics are back in racing. I obviously am a type 1 diabetic, racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series last weekend, staying at Ryan Reed's house. Ryan Reed, a former NASCAR Xfinity Series winner multiple times at Daytona. Ryan Reed is racing this weekend in a diabetes-sponsored wagon in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Great to see him back. He's a good dude. Let me stay at his house for free. And I basically had to store a bunch of stuff there. He's actually using one of my Nomex shirts this weekend, too. He needed to borrow that because he's not been racing in a while. So good to see Ryan back, and diabetics are back. So we're all back in the motor racing series now.
Love that. We all have a certain soft spot in our hearts because of you, Connor, for the diabetics. Not that we did it in the first place, but
Thank you.
It's a little bit more personal. So that's always great to hear. My third place podium is going to go to Texas A&M University.
All right.
Down there for Fox with the Secchies this past weekend.
Johnny Football.
Yeah, man, I had just a great freaking time, man. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd never been down to College Station. I've only been to Texas one other time besides that. And these folks were just so welcoming and so, they wrapped their arms around me. They gave me great places to go, whether it be restaurants or bars or shops or whatever to kill time. And, man, I just had a freaking blast. They took me around the stadium and around the football facility. So the hospitality there was great, and I was bummed that I couldn't stay for the game, but I will definitely be heading down there, hopefully again in the future to be at Kyle Field for an actual game, because it was awesome. So big shout out to Texas A&M, the Aggies down there, gigging them. Appreciate the hospitality over the weekend.
Now, did Johnny Manziel start a bar there or in Phoenix? He started a bar. Was it there or Phoenix?
I was at his bar on
nice
Day night.
What is it called? The Money Bar or something like that?
Yeah, it's called Johnny Manziel's Money Bar. I love
it.
How about this? Only serves liquor, no beer.
Oh, that's kind of odd.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, whatever you want, I guess.
Yeah. So it was a cool
Beer
spot.
Beer is dead.
It was a cool spot, but yeah, man, I suggest anybody out there who's a fan like me of college football, or hey, you have to go down to College Station for work or whatever, go check it out. It's great.
Love it. All right, Ben.
Cool. Number 3 for me, I wore my first sweatshirt of the fall season this morning, so as I'm still wearing it. So those crisp fall mornings are back, and I'm so excited for it. I usually am not like a big fall guy, but this year it's just like with how bad summer was, and now we're getting in like the 40s and 50s in the morning. I'm loving it so far.
How are you not a big fall guy? What is that?
It's just school and
school kids these days.
Just getting busy, but I felt like this, like, it hasn't been too bad so far with school, so I feel like I can enjoy it more.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
You'll drop that once you graduate, and then it's
right.
like, oh wow, this is awesome. Everybody, like, the weather's the best, and everybody's down to do stuff, and there's good food and beer and football, and it's just awesome. So
it is.
Yeah.
Well, going to number 2 for me, I've got kickball. Kickball is my number 2. Played in Corey LaJoy's charity kickball tournament on Thursday night, and we won. We won, big victory over I don't know what the team was called, but they wore green shirts, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was pitching, and he was pitching like MLB style kickball pitches. Like it was unbelievable, the spin he was putting on that ball.
Dude, that's tough, man.
Bubba Wallace was out there. We were going up against him too. A lot of former football players, a lot of athletes out there. And it was a very serious game. I had not played kickball in like 2 years since doing Corey's tournament before.
Yeah.
But great to get the W. Got a gold medal and everything for Team Celsius. That was really fun though. I enjoyed kickball. I was out there on the bases, catching balls, kicking balls. It was I was proud of my performance. Proud of Justin Haley too, my teammate in the kickball field. He would dive for balls. He was getting after it. I respect it.
See, I think that it's always like, it's tough at those kickball events when the pitcher decides that they want to go Randy Johnson on everybody.
Man.
It's like, dude, like, there's a crowd here. Like, we don't play kickball usually. Like, just roll it in there. Let me get a nice boot into it.
Oh,
because
no.
Then when they do the spin and they do the crazy speed, then it's like going off of your shin and you look like a complete jackass. It happened to me at Harlow's tournament over the summer. I'm like, dude, just slow it down here.
Man.
Let me put on a show. Come on.
This was real serious. A lot of fans there too, and we appreciate those folks for coming out. But my goodness, Stenhouse was throwing some heat. Like it was coming in hot and it was coming in twisted. It was. I've never experienced that before. But what a turnout! A lot of NASCAR folks. A lot of folks there. Some folks that even listen to Speed Street. So we appreciate those folks.
Love that. That's great. Yeah, sounds like a great time. Got the invite the past 2 years at Corey LaJoy's. Did not get the invite this year, so guess I'll just have to text them about it. I wouldn't have been able to go on anyways, but we'll see. That'll be a different conversation. All right. Number 2, my second place podium for the weekend. I'm going with Ben's fall theme here. I'm going to go a little chicken tortilla soup.
All
don't know
right.
if you had any chicken tortilla soup this fall or maybe ever, but my wife, she put it together, man. Put together this nice concoction of chicken tortilla soup. She was like,
We'll
"Hey,
take
what are
it.
you feeling?" It was a beautiful fall evening and day, and I was like, "Oh, it's crispy out. We got the breeze, we got the foliage. Give me some chili." She's like, "I'm not really feeling chili. How about some chicken tortilla soup?" I said,
All right.
"Sign me up." So she put it together, and it was so good that we had leftovers the night after too. So we had 2 straight nights of chicken tortilla soup, and it was phenomenal. And I suggest that you throw that into your fall menu.
You know what? I'll take it. I am still actually, I can't really eat a lot because Columbia really messed up my insides. So like I'm still dealing with a lot of internal issues.
Well, you have some like bug tapeworm or something in there?
I have got some sort of Colombian food disease because I ate some bad sushi there, and boy, has it been a week of tough interactions with my insides. So I just want to let everyone know that if you don't see me eating something, or it's probably because I'm trying to nurse my insides back to health.
Oh, man, what are you doing?
Food poison. I've never had food poisoning, but boy, this might be something else.
Glad nothing bad happened during the Xfinity race. I would have been
no,
not good to capture.
We're good when I'm not eating. As long as I'm not eating, we're great.
Okay. Good to know.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Number 2 for me, I'm going celebrity mental health. I was supposed to go to a Hardy concert last week on Thursday. And on Tuesday, he tweets out that the show got canceled because he's been dealing with some mental health things. And I was disappointed because I bought tickets back in March for this. And he's been like one of my favorites lately. But I do appreciate him stepping that out. And obviously, everybody got full refunds and everything. And I hope that he's going back to North or South Carolina next year on his tour. But I do appreciate him standing up and doing that because I really like him. And the last thing you want to see is, somebody performing when they're not, in the right headspace. So,
yeah, I respect that. The mental health game is tough. I have people saying that I purposely caused yellow and blew my tire on purpose on the internet to mess up the NASCAR Xfinity playoffs. So
I saw your reply to a few of those.
That'll jack up anyone's mental health when you encounter that much stupidity. So, let's hope that those folks find mental health as well. That's a tough area to live in. So anyway, purposely blew my left rear tire to cause yellow, even though I had no idea what was going on, and I was just trying to get back to the pits. So, good. And that man or woman is not listening to this podcast. I can promise you that.
What we got? Finish it out.
All right, number 1 for me, AJ Allmendinger's emotion when he celebrates victory. I am a huge AJ Allmendinger fan. The guy has been really good to me. Great friend of mine. Rookies together at the Indy 500 when we were younger lads. But to see that emotion, it is awesome. Like that guy, he loves winning, and he knows how hard it is. And he went through so many years of his career not winning and in a struggle type situation. And he talks about the mental side. He's like, that is so hard to deal with. You lose joy. I mean, I understand. I have not won at a top level in a long time. And it is so frustrating and so hard to deal with. And I know that I know AJ so well that like I know how he takes things and I know how he looks at things because the guy just wants to win. He's there to win. He that's all he cares about, being the best that he can be. And that Colleague Racing team, giving him the chance to do what he's done over the last few years is just so commendable. And I love it. And AJ is crying because it means so much to win. Like you beat all the other people who are at the top level of their game. And AJ is so good in those cars. And he's a guy that I think was written off years ago, but now he's just this absolute hero anytime he gets behind the wheel, ovals and road courses, but we obviously know road courses. So love seeing an emotional win. The guy loves what he does, and if you're successful, he's exactly right. You don't know when that win's going to come again. You don't know if that's ever going to happen again. And that experience, I assume, has to be just fantastic because what we do, this is an addiction that we have, is racing at the highest levels. And I was just really pumped for him.
Yeah, man, the dinger, love him. It's sometimes you hear it in sports throughout, whether it be football, basketball, racing, whatever it is. Act like you've been there before. And like, hey, you know what? Sometimes it's good to just say, hey, I have been here before, but I don't know when I'm going to be back, and so I'm
exactly
hell out of this. Yeah, that's kind of the other flip of the coin there, the other side of the coin, if you will. So absolutely, man. Cap off to Dinger. That's great. My P1 for the weekend is going to the Pittsburgh Steelers outside linebackers. That would be TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. I know, Ben, you the Charlotte boy there with your Miners or Niners, what are they called?
Niners, yep.
Niners, yeah. The connection there. But, man, it's the best pass rush duo in the NFL. Both of these guys are making a case right now, I think, to be Defensive Player of the Year, especially TJ Watt, his second one that would be. But this team is a total garbage shit show and would not even probably have one win so far. We'd probably be 0-5 if it weren't for these two men and the havoc that they wreak on opposing quarterbacks and offenses. So
it is tough watching that team play football. I'm not gonna lie. It is tough watching that team play football.
It's tough watching the offense. That's for sure. That's coming from somebody who's, actually friends with Kenny Pickett and Pat Freiermuth. And I think they would be forced to tell you that, yes, it is tough to watch right now. But that's why P1 is not going to George Pickens or any of them. It's going to the two fellas who are blazing, trailblazing off the edge there with their hair on fire and making things happen, strip sacks and interceptions and pass defense and touchdowns. To make this team be in the mix 5 weeks into the season. So
I did have George Pickens on my fantasy team this weekend, which I felt good about. I started him. I had instead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, boom, Pickens was in and he lit up the board for me.
6 for 130 and a touchdown will help. Yeah. So he was up there, but these guys, it's not just really for this weekend. It was just a culmination of the first 5 weeks, and they earned P1, no doubt.
Love it. All right, Ben, let's hear it.
Just the whole weekend for me is number one. I'm going to call it the second annual Speed Street meetup minus Joey at the Roval.
Oh, yeah. We did have stickers on the car.
Too.
We did. Joey's name was on the car.
So, Joey, you were on the car, so that's big.
So,
yeah, it was just fun. We got to hang out a little bit, be at the track, and capture some stuff, and, bring up the content game for old CD. So,
yep. And I did get a video of Ben singing karaoke. That Ben legitimately got up on the mic, Joey, and he sung a karaoke song. He might have had an adult beverage in his hand. Might have been enjoying, the perks of the evening. Sunday night or Saturday night after the race. I have sent the video to the group chat, so now everyone will have it. But Ben, not a good singer, but I do admit passionate. I got to
know what song. Was it Nickelback?
No, it was not Nickelback. Life is a Highway. That was the only one I could get.
Life is a Highway.
Group of friends to do it with. So, I think for me, I'm like, look, I don't got the voice, but I can bring the stage presence. So I feel like I did that.
Big stage presence guy.
Everybody had cheers when I started and when I ended. Made sure to tell everybody to tip their bartenders. That's always important. So I don't know if you got that.
A team guy, team bar guy.
So yeah, it was. We'll leave it at that.
I love it. Well, I think that wraps up a great podium, and let's get into our interview. I want to let everyone know before we get into this, there are some things that you'll hear that obviously Bryce has been at an interesting area of the internet where Bryce has committed for crimes, you would say, like back in the day, but he has not anything malicious, but he has been one to get into certain areas where you're not supposed to get into, whether it's the government, all that. But he's literally doing this as a job now. He's a great person. He's there to help us defend ourselves from people like him now. So again, take it for what it is. There's a lot of fantastic information. It is fascinating for me. Very nerdy conversation. But he's also an IndyCar fan. He's come to the Indy 500. But again, just understand that you might hear some things where you're like, well, this guy might have been a bad guy at one time, but not necessarily. You get in trouble for, getting into NASA's website or any government websites when you're not supposed to be. So he does a lot of great work now. He's done a lot of incredible things and one of the nicest guys that I've ever met. So just enjoy listening to how you might be able to protect yourself against these internet scams, against things that are going on. But I think it's a fascinating conversation. And stay tuned for what he thinks about aliens. So let's get into it. Anything else, Joey?
No, it's a hell of a combo. Let's do it.
Well, this week on the Speed Street podcast, we have a guest that I consider probably the smartest person that I know, a man who has many talents. Some talents, are, I would say, secret agent level talents. He's also an incredibly talented rapper, which I did not know at first. Also an incredible sweatsuit enthusiast. Bryce Case Jr. is here with us. Whitey Cracker, however you want to say it, that's your rap name. Some would say maybe a rap god. I don't know. I've heard it in person myself. Bryce, thank you for being with us today. How are you doing? I mean, I know it's early in the morning. I'm sorry.
The pleasure is mine. I'm having a great time.
I love it. So to give our podcast, obviously a lot of racing, right? So I want to talk about first, you came to the Indy 500 with me. You came to check it out, to experience it for the first time, I believe, right? That was your first time there?
It was, yeah.
I love to bring in people on this show who have a completely different background, but have come to a race and were like, wow, this is like the craziest. This is crazy. Because you actually also performed at the Snake Pit, I believe. You got up and did your song with Deadmau5. So what was that? What was your first experience like at the Indy 500?
It was chaotic, but I think the interesting piece about it was that just the sense of community. I mean, and then the fact that it's just like this block party practically, across the street, in the venue itself. I don't think I've ever seen that many people concentrated in one place in my entire life. And just that obviously there's so much to do, other than the race. I mean, you're obviously busy, going in
a little bit,
but yeah, that there's just a lot of obviously food trucky type things, and there's all the media booths. And so, you watch the first couple laps and then immediately it's just like, well, you walk around and, there's television screens that are showing you what's going on pretty much everywhere. But obviously the food's amazing. I said the people are amazing. It's just, it was a spectacle for sure.
I love that. And what was performing at the Snake Pit like, right? You have an awesome song with Joel, Deadmau5. And when I saw you, because that wasn't even really scheduled, right? You just happened to be there. And did Joel ask you to hey, we're going to do this song, let's do it?
Yeah, most of the times that we've performed it, it's just been this ad hoc thing.
I love that. We've
never rehearsed or anything like that. It's usually just Bill O'Reilly, do it live type shit. But the Snake Pit too. That's the other thing, is that I guess is the rumor is there's people that don't even really pay attention to the race. They just go for the Snake Pit alone, which was fun. But obviously that's like a rave that starts at 6 a.m. type thing.
Yeah.
Mind-boggling to me, because usually that's the after hours. That's when things are quieting down, but that's just when shit's getting ramped up at the Indy, I guess.
Now, and my research, and by research, I'm sure you didn't have any contribution to your Wikipedia page, but
No.
I am curious, because it says that at least Wikipedia lists you, Bryce, as best being known for your work in the genre of nerdcore hip hop.
That is correct.
Something that you claim? And for us newbies, what is nerdcore hip hop?
So it's a term that was there's a gentleman by the name of MC Frontalot, and he's the one who kind of named the genre. But it's basically just hip hop about nerdy things. And so there's a huge cross section of nerdcore artists. There's even subgenres within that. I said my buddy MC Lars has a literature degree from Stanford, and he raps about like Edgar Allan Poe and Herman Melville.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so my lane has always been, in the computer hacking, computer world and stuff. So nerdcore itself even has a bunch of little tentacles, but what wound up happening was when the media latched onto it, kind of, around 2006, 2007, I would say. It sort of got this huge boost of press, and it was a curiosity for a lot of people. But realistically, I mean, one of the, I think, core tenets of hip hop, I mean, maybe not recently, but it was in the past, was keeping it real. And so this is the stuff that I knew. And this is, a lot of what I rapped about. So it was giving a soundtrack to all the computer nerds out there, who are just programming and hacking and stuff.
So let's get into this, the computer side. Obviously, you are a world-renowned or world-known, or if people are somehow in the technology space, they know of you, right? How young were you when you first got into discovering that you are smarter than other people when working with computers? Like you're the guy that's going to solve all the problems, or figure out, hey, you guys have some problems because I can break into whatever you got. Like, when did that start for you?
Really early. Probably the same fascination that you have with cars, is similar to me with computers. I learned to read really, really young. My mom was, one of those kind of proto parents that was super involved, in all educational matters. And so I learned to read when I was 2 years old.
Wow.
I started programming computers around 4. And so I had
4-year-old computer program.
Well, again, I think that there's a lot of people that said it, especially, in the car world, they're sleeping with the children's manual at 3 years old, 4 years old,
Yeah.
and then they're doing engine swaps by 6. So it's just for whatever reason, the computer just always fascinated me. And so I love that you could tell it what to do, and if it screws up, it's usually because of something that you did. It's not because it hates you or anything like that. It has no personal preference as to like who's operating it, type thing. As long as you know what you're doing, then you're making things happen. But when in my era of computing, you kind of had to be well-rounded. That it's not just a hardware background, but a software background. And my father was an engineer. And he was working at defense contractors, like building missile systems and all that type of stuff. So he was always in the tinker side, and I was always a software guy. But the entirety of like computing was just in this sort of fledgling state, even when I was, personal computing, at least when I got started. So you had to know everything, kind of front to back. Now there's computer programmers that don't really know anything about the internals of a system. They're just very highly specialized. It's got no point. Same thing with being a doctor. Like there's neurosurgeons, there's orthopedic surgeons. There's these specializations that you eventually kind of get into. But so people from my era, we basically just had to know a little about a lot, I guess you could say.
So we see all these instances all the time of, politicians or athletes or famous people where some insane thing will leak from their Twitter or whatever it is, and then they'll just be like, yep, I was hacked. And in your experience, how many of those would you say are real, and how many are complete bullshit?
Probably about 99% bullshit. I think it's a good excuse. You want to get up late at night and say a bunch of things and then deny it all in the morning. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Jeez, yeah.
But yeah, especially nowadays, there's just a lot of mitigating factors with like 2-factor authentication and the SMS, texting and stuff where it'll validate that you're the one that's on the account. Generally, if people have done, enough of their due diligence in protecting their online safety, then it's a little bit harder, than it used to be, I would say. So anything in recent times, definitely bullshit. Not don't pay attention to it.
Do hackers?
I love knowing that.
This isn't meaning to undermine. This is just general curiosity from me. But do hackers, like back in the day, let's say like back in kind of the early days of Twitter or whatnot, would you guys kind of like sit around and have a group think of like, all right, what could Barack Obama's password be? Okay, America, hope for change, or like it's like go for a bunch of them and then just find like, oh my God, we hit it, or what's can you give us some background on the process?
Part of it, I don't know if you remember the sidekicks. It was like before iPhone was big.
The T-Mobile sidekick thing.
Mobile sidekick, yeah. So the operating system was called Hiphop, and I was fortunate enough to be a developer on that platform. But yeah, prior to the iPhone, the sidekick was the shit. And Paris Hilton, when she had all of her nudes leaked, I don't know if you remember that, but that was a guy on my bulletin board system. And her password was Tinkerbell, which was the name of her dog. So it does happen.
Jeez.
Obviously. The Twitter hack that Digital Gangster was a part of, if I remember correctly, the guy that did it had access to the admin panel, and so was able to pretty much log into any account that they wanted to. And so I remember they hacked like Fox News' Twitter, Barack Obama's Twitter, Rick Sanchez, not Rick Sanchez, that's
Rick Santorum.
And then it wasn't Rick Santorum, but it was there was just a bunch of prominent figures that you were able to just kind of log in and reset their password and do whatever you wanted to. Most hacks are usually not in through a brute force method, like where you're trying to guess passwords and stuff. It's usually some other vulnerability in the system that you're able to exploit, and then it gives you a better access than you would normally have as a user.
So there, like looking at your history, right? Like there are several organizations that I believe you have been a part of hacking, right? Which again, a lot of this you did. Now you can correct me if I'm wrong. You did this to basically let these people know, hey, you guys have an issue. Not like a malicious hacking attempt. Like if you look at your history, it's like, well, he might have hacked into the NASA website or the Bureau of Land Man. All these different. There are so many things on your Wikipedia page that I find fascinating. Right now, was that just in a day where people hadn't really got to an era of internet security yet, or like your Norton antivirus software or whatever was the only thing you had, and that was an era where you're like, hey, I got into these websites, let's try to fix this stuff for our own good. Is that kind of what? Because that's essentially what you're doing now, right? You're basically like the internet security, head chief guy, where it's like, hey, I'm going to figure out how you guys can be affected, and this is how or why.
So when I started my hacking career, it was prior to 9/11. It was in the golden era of the 90s type thing, when there wasn't a whole lot of cyber terrorism threat, I guess you could say, but I was prescient enough at the time to know part of what was annoying me is that I was a high school kid, and this is in my spare time. I'm like eviscerating the United States government. And so if I'm, a teenager.
What a sentence right there. Put that on a headline.
Take that. So that it was frustrating to me that, there's people that are being paid, money by the government, taxpayer money, to defend these systems. And, me, I'm just in my spare time, like after school or between classes or whatever, doing all this nasty shit. And so it was very just discouraging, I guess, to be, because it's this illusory power structure. You think that everybody's got a good button on it, but then realize how brittle it is. So a lot of my kind of earlier hacks were just to bring attention to the fact that this is weird that you have a teenage kid that's just able to do these types of things. Tim, the Australian that you met, Denoise, in Indy.
He was also at the Indy 500, right?
He was. So he has a saying, it's kind of appropriated from the Batman series, but that you either die a black hat or you live long enough to become an AppSec engineer. And a lot of us, the elder statesmen in that regard, now we're kind of keeping out kids that, like our former selves type stuff.
Yes.
So, eventually you just sort of mature out of, being a computer criminal, and then you can still think adversarially in the way that you need to, think like a criminal, but you're more trying to kind of keep out the next generation of geniuses.
Do you find you have a lot of black SUVs or guys in suits following you?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So at one point there was.
Jeez. Yeah. I haven't done a FOIA request on myself yet. It's something I've been kind of meaning to do, and just because I know even my case files were just thick. Yeah, they're just like the Holy Bible type stuff. And being hacker adjacent, like scene adjacent, as long as I have, there's a lot of kind of hacker initiatives that I've been a part of, or at least next to. And so in that regard, there's probably still an open file on me in some regard, but for the most part, I've always been more of a mercenary when it comes to my computer crime. And so I'll do it if it makes money. And so a lot of times I'm not going to just get involved with something unless it's going to be a profitable venture. And luckily, cybersecurity pays pretty well now. So that's
rub. Fascinating. So there's a lot of this that I think sounds like, oh man, this is like it's kind of scary, right? Like, because we're all active on the internet every day, right? Like we're all doing this stuff every day. We all have these social media accounts that are so important to us. We all have these basically smartphones that are almost our entire lives, right? Have you seen nowadays, like, to be a hacker, or if you're like some sort of internet criminal, is it as easy as it was back in the day, or is it like, hey, thankfully there are security systems now across our technology that has actually got, pretty strong?
I mean, the systems themselves obviously have improved at protecting people against themselves type thing, but the weakest link in computer security has always been the human beings. There's an entire subset of hacking. In my opinion, it's pretty much the cornerstone of it, but it's social engineering. It's the ability, like you said, if somebody's password is America or something like that, using psychological means to achieve a technological end type thing. And so a lot of times, how people are getting taken advantage of is through their own kind of stupidity in a sense, or ignorance. And that's where, again, if I emailed you a link, that looked like it was from Twitter, and I had a landing page that looked like it's from Twitter, and I had you log into your account, that's a way that I could intercept your password. But again, I'm taking advantage more of a psychological aspect rather than a technological aspect. And so as much as we've tried to protect people, because I think one of the biggest threats is that a lot of people use the same password for pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So, or some sort of small variation of a password, because it's easier.
And listen up, folks. This is important. If you got all the same passwords, let's change them up a little bit. This man is the expert.
Yes. So if I can, again, like let's say I run a auto parts site or something, and I'm storing passwords in plain text, and I somehow get you to order stuff off of my site. Well, I mean, I have your password there, or maybe I have a weak hash of it, and so then I can crack it, and then I can try that on other sites and stuff. So there's honeypots that are set up to intercept this type of data, but it's really, really important to have a really entropic, like very long, different password for everything, because it reduces your chances of getting hacked that way.
Do you have a white whale of hacking? Like, I won't make you say it, because then obviously, it's pretty easy to trace back to here. But is there something that you're like, that's my gray goose there?
Not entirely, because again, now it's more. I'm shouldered with what's called the defender's dilemma, and it's a old kind of maxim, in computer security, where a defender, you need to be successful against all points of ingress, and an attacker only needs to be successful with one. Same thing like if you had a castle, or the Death Star, how it had that one little exhaust port that you can just fire a torpedo down. So I would say that most of my time now is consumed with, again, how do I, protect, people from themselves in that same way. So I would say that my mindset's probably shifted quite a bit, from less of a aggressive posture and more of a defensive posture.
I like that. Bryce Case, good guy. Yeah, he's a good guy. We're like, we got like, I want everyone to know this is a good human being right here, and he is smarter than all of us, and I think there's a lot to learn from that. So I still have so many other things there when it comes to like just the internet in general, and what everyone is doing, and the amount of stuff that can just be created and forced out there. But who do you think, like, do you see now the usage of the internet like as a complete just change of what it used to be, and how like we're literally glued to whatever is going on our phones or on our computers? Like, is that, I guess, is there ever going to be an era where, do you think some of that, I guess, is tuned down a little bit, or is it just going to be, we're now, and you're excited about, hey, there's going to be so much more, let's say virtual reality stuff, like that technology, and getting into that whole realm of like the next level of technology? Is the next level of technology scary? Is it like Is this wild? Is this a whole new scene where like we can literally just be completely immersed into some other world?
I don't think, the cat's out of the bag, and it's so integrated in everybody's lives. Just from even a quality of life standpoint, if you think about how much, even microwaves have changed our life, or so these podcasts and everything, it's become such a part of the zeitgeist that I don't think it's ever going to get pried out. You could probably take like a somewhat computer vegan attitude. I know some people try to go off the grid and remove technology from their lives completely, but the newest sort of divergent possibility is a lot of surrounding artificial intelligence, and
yes,
that
was going to be on my list of questions as well.
So these are concepts like neural networks that have been around since kind of the dawn of computing, with like Alan Turing and the Turing test, and how do you make a computer that's so smart it'll fool you as a human being. And up until very recently, we didn't really have the computational power to realize a lot of these theories. And so now you're starting to see a lot more of that creep into regular everyday life. Machine learning is used also to tune Instagram algorithms and what you want to buy, and so that's a form of what's called artificial intelligence. But even these like ChatGPT-esque like large language models, they're able to crank out content in just this insane like rapid fashion. And so that as a force multiplier, as a human being, I think it's been said before, but learning to use AI kind of to augment your life or augment your workflow is going to be super, super important, in the next phase of humanity, where just like if you've ever used Google before and you try to type in like a full question, what is the timing on this engine or something like that, and you're very prescriptive about the question, that you realize that you can be economic about the words, and you could say like, this engine, this timing, just very laconic and just very few words type stuff. And so with AI being able to do what's called prompt engineering and tease what you need out of it, is going to be a skill all in of itself. And it's something I think we should be teaching kids, in school now, is like, how do you get an AI to give you the data that you want, the content that you want? But it's revolutionizing, video editing. It's revolutionizing generative art, and then also from like a content standpoint, you could write an entire book basically by giving it little vignettes, and then you just sort of go through and human being edit it how you want to. So that's going to be, like I said, probably the next great revolution.
That's what. So go ahead, Joey, if you got one more.
Well, if you have a follow up to that, you go ahead, because I don't want to.
Oh yeah, no, because the AI thing is fascinating to me, right? Like, should we be concerned about AI? Because like you obviously see these movies coming out with about AI taking over the world. Everyone's watched Terminator. Like, are we smart enough to get to that point where it's like, hey, we're just creating stuff because we think we want to be the coolest people creating this wild AI system? Is it concerning? Does there need to be a limit to it? It's a question that I've asked for sure.
I think one of the problems that we're going to face, it's more like I spoke about the Turing test. Like, there are artificial intelligences now that can fool humans to a degree, like where I wouldn't know that I'm talking to a real person. I could actually be fooled. And the hugest leap forward is this. It's artificial general intelligence, like the way that a human being can sort of abstract thoughts and determine. Said even a child can do these things. Like, you figure out this is a cause and effect relationship and stuff. And we haven't gotten there with computers yet, but that what'll happen is that if we're able to finally fine tune the algorithmic learning or however we approach this, then the ball will already be rolling. Like, we won't really have much of a say. It won't matter how smart we are. It's how smart the computers themselves are. And one of the most fascinating things about machine learning and how it works is that really even the chief scientists in this field don't even know how it works specifically. Like I can tell you mechanically how you were able to do like image detection, but that there's these, it operates just like a brain with neurons, and you just have these subsections that are assigned mathematical values. And so as a human being, I can look at how a computer is thinking about something, and all it is just numbers. But for the purposes of the algorithm, like it winds up having the desired effect in the output. So I think one of the most fascinating things about machine learning is we can mechanically tell you how it works and technologically tell you how it works, but the actual, like if you were to take a slice of the computer's brain and say like, how is it deducing this? No one really understands why this stuff works. So that's why I think it's a huge, just it's a paradoxical effect, I guess.
That's incredible. Ben, did you have anything for Bryce as well? Did you want to get any questions in here?
Yeah, just kind of what you were talking about with AI, as far as like these companies that are starting to like commercialize it and charge for it. Like, what do you think about that? And do you think that's something that's like most companies are going to jump on in the future?
Oh, 100%. There's a site, for instance, I think it's donotpay.com. I'm not endorsing them or anything like that, but it's basically a lawyer service that's all driven by AI. So it'll fight traffic for you. It'll argue credit reporting agencies. Wow. It has all these kind of boilerplate. And so what's going to wind up happening, I think, is you're going to have two AIs on either side of like customer service and whatever you're doing, and it's going to be a lot of AIs that are talking to each other, parsing. This AI is going to send a letter to this AI, and this AI is going to read it, and then it's going to have some sort of response. That's where I think it's sort of fascinating. It's where a lot of companies are jumping onto this. Now even with resumes and people that are trying to get jobs, like it'll peel keywords out of a resume, and then it'll try to match a likelihood as how good would this candidate be in this job. So human beings aren't really reviewing these types of things anymore. And so as a time save, I think a lot of companies, that's why they're commercializing it, is because these sort of mundane tasks, I guess, that you don't really want to be wasting like a talented recruiter's time on or something. You're going to see a lot more of that type of stuff. The application, in racing, I don't know exactly like where it would fit, in that. I mean, said probably things like, maybe fuel tuning and just I sort of kind of, man,
like real-time fuel management of like, hey, exactly how much you put in, and this is exactly what you're going to get out of it per cylinder, all this type of thing, maybe? Yeah,
more than analytics, like, but especially tuned to you as a driver, for instance. Like there might be certain habits or whatever that you have, and these idiosyncrasies in just you, like, can be more mapped, like rather than just through bare analytics and data analysis, like done through AI. It's not, I said, obviously I haven't really thought about it in terms of that, but you'll see it revolutionize every industry, just because just the same way that computers have, like now this kind of extra level of what computers can do is going to be, paramount in a lot of fields.
So this is a question that I've obviously asked you several times, right? You get to the bottom of the internet. We're the aliens. Like that's one thing I want to know about. Tell the people, should we ask more questions? What's going on at the bottom of the internet where everyone really talks about the truths? Where should we find the aliens?
I have no insight. Obviously the David Grush, I don't know if you've seen him.
Oh yeah. Watch that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. Sean Ryan was actually there at the hearings. He actually he had a front row seat to the whole thing. But I'm following it just as closely, I think, as all of you are. I personally have never seen evidence of extraterrestrial life, but I also am very keen on understanding whether or not that exists or not.
We're just trying to know. That's all. We're just trying. If you find it at the bottom. If you're finding it at the bottom of some internet hole, definitely let me know. I want to talk a little bit about your music. When did you decide, hey, I'm going to be a rapper, or like this is something that I can do? Because you've worked with a lot of really cool people, right? Like who's like the biggest name in the rap game that you've worked with? Like what was the most enjoyable part about that?
That's a good question. Like I said,
or performed alongside, or at same venue, whatever.
I mean, I did a show with Method Man earlier this year, and that like he's obviously I'm a huge Wu-Tang fan. But I mean, again, I've done kind of work with everybody, at least perform alongside, or we'll get in nerdy discussions like this where they'll ask me a bunch of computer questions.
Oh yeah,
type stuff. Like Warren G was a lot of fun. I performed with him like right after Nate Dogg died, and so it was kind of emotional.
Oh wow.
We ripped a strip club in Vegas, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, just that the music stuff, it kind of blossoms. I said like late high school type stuff, the same thing, just screwing around. But yeah, just making music. I think about computer hacking and making money on the internet was something that was fascinating to me because, again, kids like myself that were doing that, how much do you really relate to, sticking people up and, all that type of stuff. So it was more how do you be a criminal in your pajamas type thing.
Nerdcore. Yeah.
Yeah. Nerdcore, the lazy dollar. But yeah, so the music stuff just became a way to document kind of, the hacking and spamming and freaking world, as it were. And that's pretty much what the genesis of all my music stuff is.
No, it's really cool. If you the most recent song that I have listened to quite a lot, Anti-Sec with Deadmau5, great song as well. And I feel like the nerd generation of the world, right? I'm a nerd. I consider myself a nerd. I don't know as much as you, but I love the technology. For me, I could listen to, what happens at the end of the internet all the time, like what's going on, really, like it's just a fascinating conversation. But I appreciate you coming to talk to us. I could talk to you about stuff like this, for hours. Like I enjoy figuring out what's next. I do have one more question though. Do you think, as someone who sees what really pops off on the internet, who sees what's really taking a lot of traction, we're obviously IndyCar fans. I participate sometimes in IndyCar racing. What do you think could, and this might be hard, I didn't necessarily prepare you with this question, but what do you think could take IndyCar to the next level of attractiveness? Like how do you get more and more people who are, who might be not exposed to it? How do you get IndyCar to that next level of exposure, of like getting it to the young nerds, or getting it to, the young folks that appreciate technology and all that's going on? Because obviously you saw, there's a lot of data that we have to analyze, right? Like a lot of our engineers, what they analyze is astounding. But what do you think could take IndyCar to the next level of, hey, I'm going to consume that. I want that in my life.
I think like one of the fascinating things that I found out at the Indy race was how people can get headsets and stuff that can tune into kind of the driver banter and pit banter and stuff. And I think a natural progression of that, you talked about virtual reality, type things, and I'm sure that the availability of this type of technology, it's become cheaper and cheaper to produce and stuff, but you could have like entire fan experiences where I could be like in the car with you type stuff, and also chatting in like small groups, and so I see technology in that way from a fan interaction standpoint. I think that's probably the best way to get kind of even casual people more involved. And there's Collins, Joel's light guy, like that, he's been developing things for venues where, you could watch a concert at your house and it'll also control your lights and stuff. So
wow,
it's kind of this feeling that you're there, even though you're just sort of sitting at your house. And so there's probably ways to do subscription services and charge for those types of things where, if you are just a kind of a basement dweller and you don't want to go outside, you don't really want to get the Indy, like how do you get the full Indy experience? I mean, you're not going to get the full experience, but how do you get as close to that as possible, as sitting on your couch or something? And so that's probably where I think the next level will kind of be, is then all these sort of casual fans that, may not be able to make it out, they'll still have the money or whatever to buy a, virtual reality headset, or, listen to the conversations. And that's how you kind of get people. I mean, it's the same in music. Like in order for somebody to, I think, to become a real fan, like they have to come and see you perform. And then that's when you really latch them.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like otherwise you sort of have this parasocial relationship with them where you're interacting with them on Instagram But now that gap is so much more narrow because the way technologies has proliferated in society, that it's going to be a lot more accessible, to kind of do these things and again have these like sort of fan based, very very tailored experiences that again I think people would enjoy.
Man, I agree. I think that would be sick. Bryce, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I could ask you questions all day. I find this world fascinating that you've got that you've been a part of. It's been a great time being your friend. I've enjoyed every time we get to hang out, and I can't wait for more. And I hope to have you at more IndyCar races as well. I think it's an awesome time. So thank you so much, man. This has been truly. I find this stuff fascinating. I can't wait to see what our listeners think about it. I love knowing what's going on. The next level of technology is fascinating for me. So I appreciate you letting us get into it a little bit.
100%. I find your world fascinating. I think that again, you give yourself too little credit on, so that everybody can be a nerd. Like you said,
yes.
Even jocks are technically nerds. They'll memorize sports stats and all that stuff. So I think we're all nerds, in some form or another. And so I just love people that are passionate about what they do. And I think you fit the bill, Connor. And I said, I love hanging out with you. You're a blast. So yes, anytime, anywhere.
Thanks, Bryce.
I love it.
Appreciate it, Blake.
Thanks a lot, man.
So there you go. This is, I'd say it's kind of like a catch me if you can situation, right? Leo DiCaprio, he has this whole entire thing where he's ripping off fraudulent checks, doing those things. Tom Hanks is after him forever. But then all of a sudden, Leo DiCaprio says, hey, maybe I can be doing some good. Tom Hanks says, yeah, we can use this guy's mind to our advantage and catch other people who are trying to do that. So maybe a little similar situation there. Very fascinating conversation with Bryce. Appreciate him being so open and honest. As usual, and Connor
absolutely
setting that up, no doubt. All right, we've reached that point. Yeah,
he's he's out there doing good things for people now. You know what I mean? He's on the if people need help, if our government needs help, he's going to help them. He pretty much does a lot of help for Amazon. You know what I mean? So Amazon goes to him and says, hey, we're going to need your help protecting our stuff, protecting our customers. Bryce is a guy who's helping us out. So very very cool of him to be a part of this show. And he's got some great music out there, too.
Absolutely. Let's do it, though. Let's wrap it up here with this week's Ricky Treadway Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week.
All right. We went to the 1963 Indianapolis 500, won by Parnelli Jones. Very, very famous. The 1963 Random Indy 500 Driver of the Week this week is the 11th place finisher, Dempsey Wilson. Dempsey Wilson was sponsored by VitaFresh Orange Juice. So a big orange juice partnership on the Dempsey Wilson wagon. Dempsey Wilson, American race car driver, born in Los Angeles, an LA guy. Raced in Southern California, short tracks, roadsters, midgets, stock cars. Looks like he has 4 Indy 500s total. 1958 was his first one. 1963 was his last. And his best finish was 63, which we talked about in 11th. So, Dempsey Wilson. There it is.
Passed away, sadly, at the age of 44 after a long battle with mesothelioma.
Oh, man, that's a shame.
Yeah, that
is a shame. R.I.P. Dempsey Wilson.
Only 44 years old. Gone far too soon there for Dempsey. But 400 starts under his belt, and we appreciate him for that, as always. Okay, another full one in the books. We appreciate you guys for continuing to rate, review, follow us, listen to the show, tweet at us, all those things. Truly a Speed Street neighborhood, and we appreciate the heck out of it for sure. Connor, anything big this weekend for you?
Alex Rossi's getting married this weekend, going to the wedding. So big wedding weekend.
Lay down.
Very excited for it. This first wedding I've ever been in as a wedding person, as a part of the wedding party or whatever it is.
Ooh, okay.
So that'll be a whole new thing. But also let us know. I talked to Tiff, who is a part of the Dirty Mo Media group this week. Let us know if you think episodes should be coming out earlier on the week. She said that maybe Monday, Tuesday episodes people like more. I don't know. I like how we do it, middle of the week, get some information going, but let us know what you think. If that's going to be something you want to get popping in your head earlier rather than later, feel free to let us know.
Absolutely. But we'll be back, of course, better than ever next week, and we look forward to it. So until then, we'll talk to you next time on Speed Street.
Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.